podcast today.
Anytime. How's everything in your world?
Oh man, unfortunately, we're in this tough situation. All of us. I'm trying to stay active, work out, keep up with my workouts, and keeping busy with the sports podcast. And I'm rolling through with these interviews, and I'm just honored. The people I reached out to come on the show, they agreed, and especially if you two agree, it's awesome. So
no, of course, man. I see what you're doing. We all see what you're doing. So at least we could hop on and talk some sports,
Yeah. So first of all, before we get started, how are you and your family doing?
During this, on my end, my brother left the house. We initially were gonna just all hunker down at my mother's house, but my brother ended up leaving to go spend time with his wife and kids. So it's really just me and my mother right now, just taking care of her, making sure all is well over here. How about you? How's your family? How's everybody on your side? Yeah,
we're doing good, just hanging in there. I'm just hoping this thing resolves pretty sooner than later. But Cuomo just announced that the lockdown is extended for New York till May 15th. So
let's see what happens. It could go from May 15th to June 15th to September 15th, man. So.
Yeah. So speaking, since it's throwback, I'm a New York Knicks fan, but since it's throwback Thursday, I wanted to show you something here.
Wow, that is a throwback. That is definitely a throwback.
Yeah,
Jason Kidd and
Richard Jefferson.
Richard. Jefferson. All of them. It's got everybody written all over it, man. That's a good one.
Yeah. So So the viewers who just hey, what's up, Brandon Scoop? Scoop just joined.
What up, bro? That's my guy.
Yeah. I interviewed him a couple days ago. So
okay.
Yeah,
cool, man. That's a good dude right there.
Yeah. So whoever, can you explain how you got interested in the sports industry and how you became the NBA senior writer?
Sure. So it started in high school when I realized I wasn't going to the NBA. Right. I feel like there's always that moment of realization. It's okay, either I'm going to try to go to the NBA or I'm going to try to do something else. At that point, I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to be playing pro basketball at any level. But I was always a good writer, and I knew I wanted to be around basketball as much as I could. I knew I wanted to stay around the game. And I knew I wanted to learn. I just wanted to keep learning more and more about it. So I just chose the writing route. Went to school, went to Hampton University. I'm wearing a sweater right there, Hampton.
Yeah.
Went to Hampton, studied journalism there. Did all the internships. I knew I wanted to be here, which is where I am now. I wanted to be in New York. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be covering the NBA. I didn't want to do high school sports or college sports because I know you can go the high school sports route and get stuck there for a lifetime, right? I didn't want that to happen. So I was like, all right, well, I was really clear on what it was that I wanted to do. And I kind of just worked backwards. I knew, okay, well, if I want to be in the NBA, if I want to work in NBA as a writer, I need to do these internships. I need to pick up these skills and develop them. And that's really just what I did. I interned at Bleacher Report. I interned at NBC Sports. I interned at the Center for Public Integrity, which is in DC. That was environmental writing. So it had nothing to do with sports at all, but that's how I really became good at actually writing and reporting. And then after that, I got my start right when I finished college in 2015. Connor Hughes, who now works at The Athletic, was the editor at About.com. And they had a sports section they launched for 2 years. And then year 2, they brought me on to cover the Knicks. And that was when I kind of picked up because, Knicks Twitter is a different world. And when there's a little bit of content on them from somebody new like myself, they kind of just gravitated towards it and went from there to SB Nation after that. Shout out to Mike Prater, who gave me my chance over there. Really started branching outside of just New York and doing all types of national stories. And the Daily News came and hired me away from SB Nation in July of last year. And it's been a ride since then. I've been covering the Nets this entire year, which is a ride in and of itself. And here I am, man. 27 years old, covering the Nets and the NBA for the New York Daily News.
That's awesome. I followed you for a long time, by the way, and you do a great job. Keep up the great work.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's get to the Brooklyn Nets here. Obviously, there's no season right now, and I think when they come back, I think they're going to go right to the playoffs, in my opinion. And Brooklyn Nets are competing for the playoffs as we speak, and they're in the playoff spot. So do you see? So if they do go right to the playoffs, do you see? First of all, how is it like covering KD, Kevin Durant, Kyrie every day in the gym and kudos to you for posting all the videos of KD's rehab and progress. So give a shout out to you because you're the one who posts all the videos. So tell me how is it like to interact with them every day?
Well, KD, we don't really get a chance to talk. The only time Kevin Durant has spoken to media 2 times this year. One was for the introductory press conference, on media day. He didn't have an introductory press conference. We spoke to him on media day, and then we spoke to him shortly after Kobe died because Kyrie wasn't ready to talk. So KD said, I have to step in and talk for him. Dealing with those guys are both different. Well, one in the sense that we don't really get access to KD, so we really don't even get. And in another way, you don't really get access to Kyrie if it's not a game day or a practice when he feels like talking. This is what it's like to make the change in media from when you're covering a regular team to covering a team with superstars, right? Superstars generally do their own thing, and you have to follow what they are setting for themselves versus when you have a regular team. Like last year's team was D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert. Those guys are still growing, right? So they still want to talk to us, right? They want to talk to us after games. They want to, you know what I'm saying? We're kind of still helping them reach whatever the level they're trying to reach. Stars, they could care less, man. They're doing their own thing. But just in terms of dealing with him, Kyrie's a cool dude. He's a thinker. He's going to. One thing that I noticed about him is if someone asks him a question, he doesn't immediately understand what he's trying to say. He'll ask you to repeat it, right? So if you ask a question, he'll go, "Can you say that again?" or "Can you say it differently?" He really wants to give a thoughtful answer to a lot of things, and you see that in things that he does, and anything he speaks out on, and things that he stands for. Whether it's he made a donation to food banks not too long ago. He donated, I don't know if it was money or sneakers to a girls basketball team in Jersey. Like a lot of the things that he does, they take a level of thought, and that's something that I learned from it. And just the compete level, guys go harder with Kyrie in the gym because he's going at you 1,000 miles an hour. Think about it. Before the season even started, he broke his face playing pickup, right? Like that shows you. Like, we don't know how it happened, but he was playing hard in a meaningless game of pickup, and that's what you get from Kyrie. There's a lot of things that people say about him, which we don't know if it's true or untrue yet. We haven't even seen how this season plays out yet. But 20 games in, I will say this: there's no energy at Barclays like there has been in games that Kyrie plays in. It's just it's electric in there because you don't know what he's going to do. He could go for 50 today. He could go for 12 shots. He could go for 12 points, but one of those points would be the game winner. It's a different vibe in there. And it's been fun, even if it's only been 20 games, just watching him, just seeing what he's able to do with that basketball has been great.
Yeah, especially for him being back home, that's a big thing for him. Plus, I've seen at the beginning of the season, he put up 50 against the Knicks at Barclays Center. So that was crazy. That was a crazy game. He went off that game. So I respect
over RJ.
Oh yeah, I respect Kyrie as a player, and I to be honest, he still gets criticized from his Boston days. But to be honest, just put that he needs to just put that to the past and focus on his new team, Brooklyn. Because I feel like with the new chapter and then he has his own team now with KD, and I feel like this team next year will be talented and lethal, in my opinion. Because but here's my next question though. Do you see Kyrie? I mean, obviously KD. Obviously, this tough situation, but do you see this long layoff benefits the Nets? Because do you see a possible chance that KD and Kyrie will come back for the playoffs?
This season, no. Just simply because Kyrie just underwent shoulder surgery, right? So we don't know how long that's going to take, and that probably, if we've learned anything from watching Kyrie across his career, not even just in the NBA, if you think about it back to Duke, he only played 11 games because he had a toe injury. Every phase of his career, he's had some injury that's kept him out of games, and if he wants to win a championship in Brooklyn or for the Nets or for New Jersey, whichever way he wants to put it, he is home. Yeah. Even if home is Jersey, if he wants to win a championship for the Nets, the best thing he can do is be healthy and be on the floor. There's no need to rush themselves back to a championship. Listen, there's no reason for KD to play or for Kyrie to play this season. This team is not winning the championship this year, and if you're not winning the championship this year, there's no reason to put any guys at risk. And you could say, oh, well, if you put KD and Kyrie on the floor after however many months off there is, they can win it all too, and that might be the case, but I don't see this Nets team beating a Bucks team in 7 games, whether they have Kyrie or KD or not. The Raptors will still give them problems. Teams that have cohesion, that have played with each other for a long time, are going to give the Nets issues because the Nets, number one, you might have all this time off, but you don't have this time off together, right? So it's not like you can be at a practice facility working out together. These guys don't have access to each other. So when they come back, there's still not going to be any chemistry there. And they don't even have a head coach. You have Jacques Vaughn. We don't know if he's going to be back for next year. So you're going to bring Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant back, both put them at injury risk with probably a 0% chance at winning the championship, with a roster that you don't know everybody's going to be back next year. They probably won't be. And with a coach that probably won't be here next year. It just doesn't make sense in my book. So I think they just put Spencer Dinwiddie out there, put Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, DeAndre Jordan, Garrett Temple, Torian Jared Allen. Put all those guys on the floor, see what you can get done, and then re-up next year with everybody healthy. Yeah,
so speaking of the head coach, I mean, I was kind of like, as a Knicks fan, I really thought it was a puzzling move when the Brooklyn Nets got rid of Kenny Atkinson, because he did a great, a wonderful job with the Nets. So what was your reaction when this happened?
You know, I've had several different reactions going from the immediate reaction when I heard about it the morning of, to the day after, to a week later once I started to think things through. And now it's been a little bit over a month since everything happened. And when you think about it, the last game Kenny Atkinson coached was a blowout win against San Antonio, I believe. And he just got out of there, right? Like, you're generally, after a big win, you want to talk to media for 10 minutes or so. You want to talk to them about what you did that game that allowed you to beat one of the best head coaches in NBA history, Greg Popovich. Karis LeVert had a great game that game. You want to talk about Karis LeVert's game and the development that he's had since day one through now. Kenny took questions for about 3 minutes and said, "Hey guys, I got to get out of here. See you later." And we never saw him again. So in hindsight, it kind of makes me think that A, he probably knew something was coming, or B, he knew that was going to be his last game. I don't know what the case was there. We haven't had a chance to talk to him yet either. I'm just hoping one day I bump into him in the middle of the street somewhere. Like, maybe I'm going shopping somewhere and Kenny's right there. I just get to talk to him. That would be great. But you know, I was surprised, just like everybody else. You know, like you mentioned, Kenny was a guy he was basically the face of the Nets before D'Angelo Russell, before Karis LeVert. There was Kenny Atkinson, who was developing all these guys to become what they are now. But it just goes to show you that the Nets are no longer in a development stage. They want to
win.
They want to win right now, you know. And we knew that once you trade D'Angelo Russell for Kevin Durant and bring in Kyrie Irving, we know that it's not the same, right? But I still felt like Kenny Atkinson deserved the chance to coach this team in the playoffs, because you can't call a guy a development coach if he hasn't had a chance to win yet. And you didn't even give him a chance to, and he wouldn't have gotten that chance this year as well, since Kyrie's out the entire year. So I guess in a sense they were kind of trying to be ahead of the 8 ball and not maybe have to make this decision next year when they get to the playoffs, right? So maybe it's like, okay, now we know Kenny Atkinson might not be the right head coach. Instead of trying to get out an additional year, let's get somebody in now. But it just wasn't. It was just it was bittersweet. I wouldn't even say it's bittersweet, because there's no real sweet side to the story for Kenny Atkinson, right? He's gonna have to restart from scratch somewhere. But it just goes to show you that when you've got this championship window that you have right now, you got to maximize it. Kevin Durant could be a free agent the year after next one, right? So he has this year in his contract. He has this year coming up, the year after that coming up, and then in his final year 4, he's got a player option, right? So if you want to win and you want to keep KD here for long periods of time, you've got to win now. And if Kenny Atkinson's not that guy, then tough decision by Sean Marks, but it had to be done.
So here's Mike. Do you have any insight yet on what they're looking for as a head coach, or it's too early to tell?
Too early to tell at this moment. I think right now the Nets, just like a lot of other teams, are kind of in I wouldn't say damage control mode, but no one really knows what this coronavirus thing is going to look like for the next few months, you know, weeks to months. You know, when we spoke to Sean Marks, he said as of now the head coaching search has been paused. He also talked about Jacques Vaughn and what he's been able to do for players since everybody's been on quarantine. He's checking in on everybody. You know, he's really making sure that everybody is doing well, that their families are well. He's trying to find different ways to keep players active. And that's what a coach has to do at this point, right? Because you're still the leader of this team. You've got to check in on guys. But I can't imagine the Nets really, like, if the Nets came out tomorrow and said we're going to replace Jacques Vaughn with, I don't know, call it Tom Thibodeau, Jeff Van Gundy, whoever it is, it would be kind of weird to do that in the middle of a quarantine season, right? You want my best bet is Jacques Vaughn finishes this season now whenever it restarts, right? Unless the season gets completely canceled, and then we go from there. I've heard a bunch of different names floating around. We've heard Mark Jackson. We've heard Phil Handy, who Scoop reported when he was on not too long ago. You said you had him on here not too long ago. Phil Handy is a good friend of Kyrie's. But at the end of the day, we don't really know much about who Kyrie and KD want as their head coach. And as much as Sean Marks or anybody else in the organization wants to spin it and say it's going to be a collaborative effort between us and ownership and management, No, it's going to be up to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, whoever they want to be their head coach. You're not going to hire someone who does not have the effect of KD and Kyrie. And I think those two guys are going to be the ones, and maybe DeAndre as well. Those two guys, those three guys are going to be the ones who have the most say in who the head coach is. As of right now, I couldn't tell you who it is.
You want to hear outside of the box candidate?
Let's hear it.
Greg Popovich.
Yeah, I get that. Whether he leaves the Spurs team that he's only been with for God knows what, 85 years, going on 95, however long he's been part of that team, I don't know if he leaves them. But if he does leave them, there's no better team to go to. You go to Brooklyn. You already have a relationship with Sean Marks. You have a team that's ready to compete right now that needs a head coach that's championship worthy. Yeah, I could see it. That would be nice. It's just a matter of prying him from San Antonio. I'm not sure he does that.
Right.
Why not?
Because I feel like he can hold KD and Kyrie accountable, and then he's really good at keeping it like 100 with the team and making them focus every game and have that mindset. So I feel like that could be a good candidate for you guys. But I guess we have to see and wait and see. But now back to the team, though. My favorite player to watch from afar is Caris LeVert. The way he played and how far he came from the injuries he had. And man, this guy works hard, and he's an inspiration, and everybody should go follow him because Caris LeVert, man, this guy can flat out score. He can play. He can defend. I feel like he's the third best player on this team right now with KD and Kyrie. Do you agree with that?
100%. And Spencer Dinwiddie is a guy who will joke around after games. But one thing that he's been consistent about is, establishing the pecking order of a hierarchy in terms of who the best players on the team. But then he goes, number one is obviously KD. Number two is obviously Kyrie. Number three is obviously Caris. I'm number four. Right. And Caris is a guy who I've been able to cover pretty extensively since I started working, since I started being at Barclays. He's just been a guy who, rule number one of thumb in journalism is, talk to the guy who nobody's talking to, right? So last year, a lot of people want to talk to D'Angelo. I would want to talk to Caris. Before that, it was just a matter of, hey, this is a cool dude, and let me just find different ways to tell his story. And he's had to go through a lot of things. You brought up the injuries, but just a lot of things in terms of, when he was in high school, he was about maybe 155 pounds soaking wet, right? And he had to fight on bigger guards, on big men, different types of things like that. And just his journey, I got to talk to a bunch of his coaches for a story that I read. I talked to his high school coach, talked to a bunch of people from his high school that he played with, and just everybody has amazing things to say about him. He also does the 22 initiative, where he just it's either at West, no, it's like Brooklyn School, some high school in Brooklyn. I went there not so long ago. They're going to kill me for forgetting which one it is. But he mentors 22 kids, or it might be more than 22 kids, through his 22 initiative. And it's just not even about, it's bigger than basketball. It's just making sure that those kids have someone that they can talk to about different things that they've got going on in their lives. He's just an all-around solid dude, and that's not even to do with the guy who's on the court. He's nasty. Right. We can see what he does. Yeah. And that just goes to show you the position that the Nets are in. Do you keep Caris and see him as that third star, or do you package him in a deal and trade him for someone who is already there? Is as good as we think Caris LeVert can be. Right now, he's not as good as Bradley Beal. Now, he's probably not as good as a couple other guys that you might be able to trade for. If Donovan Mitchell becomes available, do you go get him, and do you trade Caris LeVert? Probably. If Ben Simmons becomes available, I saw some people talking about, trade Ben Simmons to the Nets. They're a championship contender. I don't know about that fit, but if Ben Simmons becomes available and that's somebody that you want, you probably trade Caris LeVert. So it's interesting because he's obviously a rising star in this game, but just how bright can that star be, and how quickly will it get to that point versus do you trade him for someone whose star is already that bright? That's where the Nets are right now.
Yeah. So actually, my younger brother who just joined, he's a big Nets fan. So he has a question for you. He said, how long will it take for KD to recover?
I'd guess KD is about 90 to 95% recovered right now. Oh, wow. And that the only reason he isn't on the court right now is because he has just the general progression of people who recover from injuries. You have to go from 1-on-1 workouts to 3-on-3 workouts to 5-on-5 drills, then full contact scrimmages, and then you're probably ready to go. Last we had heard Kevin Durant was doing 5-on-5, or was just about to start doing 5-on-5 before things started escalating with the coronavirus. There are even some videos of him really like going like during that West Coast trip. I think he blew by Nick Claxton and dunked on him. Just a couple things like that. I've seen him be ready just in terms of being able to put pressure on that foot of his. I've seen him go from not being able to jump up off the floor to actually shooting jump shots, to actually shooting turnaround fadeaway jump shots, to running full speed into the court and catching a football. I've seen him do all that. And he's done, and Kevin Durant, just like Kyrie Irving, they're deliberate with what they do, right? So to go back to your point on me being able to get these videos of him, if he really didn't want me or any other media to be recording these videos, he wouldn't be working out in front of us, right? Like he would know, okay, the media's about to be here. Let me not work out. I mean, he knows, these guys are smart. They know what they're doing. They know how to utilize or leverage the media to their own benefit. So I think he's pretty... I wouldn't say he's good to go now. We don't know where he is in terms of contact. And I think for him not being able to utilize the facilities that the Nets have might be an issue, because you've got trainers, you've got people who you need to help you rehab that Achilles that you now don't have access to because you don't have access to people. But I think just in terms of just where he is or where he was at, what was that, March 11th when the season was still going? I think he could have been on the path to a return if he wanted to play. Like, if he wanted to play, I think he could have returned feasibly in the playoffs, but I just didn't think that made sense. But I think physically, he should be ready. If he's not ready to go now, he'd be ready to go within a month.
Wow. Whew, that's remarkable. For you to say 95%, that's remarkable because...
Well, think about it, because an Achilles rehab generally takes, 9 to 12 months, and he injured his Achilles in the NBA Finals. We're about to be in the playoffs now. If the season was still going on today, we'd be in the playoffs right now. So he's in that 10-month threshold right now, and from what I saw 2 months ago, he was ready to go. And now it's like, okay, well, it's 2 months have passed, but now you don't have the facilities. It's like, okay, well, where is he at now? Is he regressing? Is he progressing? Is he just plateauing? I don't know. And I guess we'll find out. But I'd assume that if the season restarts, he's going to need more time now to ramp up. Which I mean, it goes back to me not thinking he should play at all this year, no matter when they restart. But he looked in pretty good shape to me when I got to see him working out.
Wow, that's amazing. But back to the roster. So are you The bench, I mean, obviously, but as a Knicks fan, it's horrible for me. I can't watch Knicks games because I watch more Nets games now just to see what they do. So the bench, it's a little concerning for me because I feel like obviously you guys have veteran players and mixed with young, but do you have a concern, especially at the point guard position? I mean, obviously Spencer didn't really. What a player he is, but I'm saying, do you think they need more depth on the bench for next year to help KD and Kyrie when they come back?
My concern isn't how much depth they have. I think they have a very deep team. My concern is more so the type of depth they have. When you're building with guys like, so take, for example, what the Lakers did. The Lakers got LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and what they do, they put role players around them, and not just role players. They put guys who know their roles and are willing to be a star in their roles. You've got Dwight Howard, you've got JaVale McGee, you've got KCP, Danny Green, Avery Bradley, Rajon Rondo. You've got all these players that know exactly what it is they're here to do, and they know, okay, LeBron and AD, you guys are the stars. You guys will get us 65 points on a nightly basis. We need to make up the other 40, and we need to stop the other team from scoring 100 points. Right? That's what the Lakers are doing. Even the Clippers, you look at them. You've got Kawhi Leonard. You've got Paul George, but you've also got players solidified in roles. Lou Williams, his job is to score and to score only. Everybody else, their job is to hit open shots, defend their position. That's a formula for success. The Nets have 2 stars, and they've got a bunch of other players who I think want to be. And I think that's an issue there. You've got Karis LeVert. Love Karis LeVert. I think he knows that he is a star in this league. So where does he fall in line, right? You've got guys like Taurean Prince who the Nets need a stretch for at that position. If you watch Taurean Prince play, he's a guy who's going to try to put the ball on the field, do a crossover, shoot a step back. That's not what they need. They need guys who are going to lock up, play their position, and really follow a game plan. So it's not. I think if you put the Nets roster pound for pound, like side by side against any other roster, I think you'd be hard pressed. Fully healthy, it'd be hard to find another team that's as deep as them. Maybe the Clippers. Even if you just look at them, I think the Nets are deeper than the Lakers. If you just look at the positions that they have, I'd take Karis LeVert over Kyle Kuzma 10 times.
Yeah.
I'd take Spencer Dinwiddie over Rajon Rondo over any point guard on the Lakers roster 10 times out of 10. The Nets have as deep a team as you'll find, but do they have the right kind of depth? I'm not sure. And I think that's what they're going to explore. If they don't go get that third star, I think they're going to they might make small deals here and there. They need a different four. I don't think Taurean Prince is the
right. Yeah.
Now, I like a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith out in Dallas, but I don't think they're going to give him up. So it all depends. I think they've got to answer your question, I think the Nets are incredibly deep. I don't think they're the right type of deep, and I think that's what they're going to address in the summer.
Yeah, so here's the thing they should do here. Try and get Bradley Beal. Trade Karis LeVert for a veteran. I mean, if you can find something, find a veteran player that can help at the fourth spot, and then either who will help them in big time for the bench, Jamal Crawford.
Jamal Crawford could help them. I think J.R. Smith is also an interesting fit.
J.R. Smith.
He's played with Kyrie, and I think he's at the point in his career where he wants a ring and is going to do what it takes. And we saw at the latter end of his career, he's willing to play defense. He's willing to move that ball. He just made one big blunder, which was not giving LeBron the ball or shoot. That was the end of the finals, or at the beginning of the finals, which basically cost them that series. But I think he's ready for a return to NBA. We haven't seen him in a very long time. I think he's still an NBA player. And they need to do that. They need to do things like find guys like that. I think Serge Ibaka wants to stay in Toronto, but if he becomes a free agent, that's obviously a perfect fit. They need guys like Ibaka, big guys like maybe Marcus Morris, whenever those guys become available. They need guys who are going to defend, be physical, and hit open shots. And that's basically, if you take the Lakers role players and put them on this Nets team, and then keep certain guys. You keep Dinwiddie. You probably can't keep Karis LeVert. You would try to. You replace Taurean Prince with I don't know Marquise Morris or some guy like that. You've got options, and I think what the Nets have in their favor is you have two superstars. There are not,
and people will take the minimum. Yeah,
there are not three more players at their position that are better than them in this league. You can't. It'd be tough for you to name me three forwards that are better than Kevin Durant and 3 point guards that are better than Kyrie Irving, right? Because if you're trying to put three ahead of Kevin Durant, what do you have? You have LeBron, Giannis, Kawhi. That's tough. It's tough, man. It's tough. And Kevin Durant, if he wasn't hurt this year, you probably have Kevin Durant somewhere in that top two, top three, top two, right? Maybe number one, depending on how he's playing. And then Kyrie, who you playing ahead of Kyrie? Probably, maybe Steph. Steph was hurt this year too. It's tough. The point guard is a toss-up, right? So that's what's going in the Nets' favor. You have two of the 10 best players in this league. You have a starting caliber backup point guard. You have two centers, and you've got other pieces in the mix that can be moved around that can fit. I like how Garrett Temple fits in this roster. He's a keeper. Other than that, anybody else? I like how Joe Harris fits. I hope the Nets can find a way to keep him. He's due for a pay raise. But even still, like, you can replace Joe Harris because he's a shooter. Love Joe Harris, right? If he is getting more money elsewhere,
you can replace him. Yeah,
you can replace him with a shooter. Do you want to? No. I love Joe Harris. I think he's a great fit in this offense and whatever they're going to. And we don't even know what this offense is going to be, right? You're bringing in a new coach who's going to implement his own stuff. So it's going to be fun. I forget exactly what question you asked me, but I do think that in terms of what the team has going for them, in terms of just having two stars and building a roster around them, they can just look at what other teams have been able to do, specifically championship contenders like the Clippers and the Lakers, who have two stars and are building around them too.
Yeah, so like you said, they have the advantages with the two stars. Plus, I feel like players will take the minimum to join the Nets to help them win a championship probably next year.
That's what we see everywhere. We see players take less than they should take to go sign with the Clippers and play with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, or go play with LeBron James. We've got Kyrie and KD. Guys are going to take pay cuts because you have a legitimate chance at a championship. And for some guys at the end of their career, that's all they want. Even for some guys in the middle of their career, look at what the Lakers did with DeMarcus Cousins this year, or what the Warriors did with DeMarcus Cousins last year. Guys want people who are at the end of their careers, or guys who may need like an extra. They just might need another chance to prove themselves somewhere. The Nets can get lucky in a bunch of different scenarios, man. They've got a lot of flexibility. I'm excited for what they can do.
Yeah. So before I let you go, I got a couple of things here. A few rapid fire questions here, and then a Kobe take, and then what's it called, the frontline people.
Sure.
So first, thoughts on Jared Allen as a player?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Thoughts on Jared Allen as a player? Jared Allen?
So Jared Allen looks good. He looked really good last year, and this year we saw, I wouldn't say necessarily a step back, but we saw him with some legitimate competition in DeAndre Jordan. And whatever your perspective or your opinion is on DeAndre Jordan, whether he is or what he used to be, definitely not because he's gotten older. DeAndre Jordan knows how to move the ball. Right, he is an exceptional passer, and that is something that you really got to see, especially in Kenny Atkinson's offense this year, is because you put DeAndre Jordan at the top of the key, and you could just see him make those bounce passes to cutters, move that ball around quickly. And Jared Allen hasn't necessarily hit that point in his career yet. At this point in his career, I think he is, he's a definite rim protector, rim runner. He can finish at the rim, but he's still a little raw. He needs to be developed a little more. And just by the simple fact that you've got DeAndre Jordan and you've got Nick Claxton, we don't know if he's a 4 or a 5, but we know he can play. Jared Allen could be a trade candidate, and it's not his own fault. It's just the way that the Nets went, and it should be an honor for him. That means that there are people that want him that can build around him. But he can also end up staying there and give the Nets some depth. But I think if the Nets are going to have a legit backup center, he needs to be able to space the floor out.
Favorite hip hop artist back in the day and current hip hop artist?
Sheesh, what a question. Listen to a lot of Jay-Z when I was younger growing up. My older brother wouldn't let me do anything but that. He definitely threw some hope on me. Listen to a lot of Nas when I was growing up. Listen to, what's up, man? That's a throwback. What did I listen to? I listened to a whole bunch of stuff, man. It doesn't make no sense. Yeah, a lot of Big, a lot of everything, man. Now I listen to a lot of Meek. I listen to a lot of Nipsey Hussle, R.I.P. A lot of local artists, Pop Smoke again, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
A lot of people here. Meek Mill and Nipsey Hussle are two that are heavy. Dave East is another one that's heavy in my playlist. I listen to a lot of hip hop, rap, R&B.
Yeah, for me it's Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Tory Lanez, Drake. So and Meek Mill too. And I love listening to rap music when I work out, especially when I work out. It gets me into the zone. Yeah, sure. So favorite food.
Oh man, so right now I'm on this thing where I eat a lot of plants. I eat a lot of veggies. I'm plant-based right now. My favorite plant-based food is an oyster mushroom. It tastes a lot like seafood, but it's not. It has a like chewy consistency. It's versatile. You can. It basically takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with. Really, really good. But other than that, I love salmon, fried seafood of any sort. I love a nice piece of steak. Medium rare. There's a lot of things that I miss that I don't eat now that I used to eat a lot of. But as of now, I'm big on smoothies, big on little mini salads, quinoa bowls, things like that. I'm trying to be a little healthy. You feel me? Yeah.
So favorite thing to do outside of sports?
During this quarantine has been playing this PS4, smoking people in Call of Duty left and right. But outside of going to NBA games and chilling, sometimes I'm 27 years old, sometimes I just like to go hang out with some friends, go to a couple parties here and there, hang out. What else do I do? I started going to a little archery spot to shoot some bow and arrows not too long ago, so that's been fun. I went to a gun range for the first time with a friend of mine who's in the military. I did that right before it was New York lockdown, just in case this turns into the purge or something like that, and people start trying to run around looting cribs. I would know how to handle a firearm, so there's that. What else do I do? I generally just chill. I watch a lot of Netflix, chill out, mind my business, drink my water. I just mind my business, try to work out, try to be healthy, try to be sane. That's about it.
So I've been asking all my guests that comes onto the show what their perspective is on Kobe Bryant, because he's one of my role models growing up. I watched him play throughout his career. I just want to get your take, what he meant to you and what he meant to the NBA.
Kobe was my favorite player growing up after Allen Iverson. I have a Kobe jersey over that way. Actually, no, I'm not going to go grab it. But Kobe, he was definitely... That was the player who made me fall in love with basketball, right? Because AI was more so, oh my goodness, this guy has handles, right? This guy can do so many different things on the court for his size. He's getting banged up. He's still going out there and competing. Kobe was more so, I'm doing whatever it takes to win whether I'm shooting 40 shots, whether I'm shooting 2 shots, we're winning championships. This is what we need to do. He did it his way, and it wasn't popular. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it didn't go well with Shaq after those 3 years. And, you know, Kobe wasn't the best person, or he wasn't the best player. You know, I mean, everyone has their own opinions on Kobe. I loved him to death, you know, and when I found out that he passed away, funny story, it's not really a funny story, but the day he died, you know, I'm in NBA locker room. I still got a job to do. The Knicks were, I believe it was the Nets playing the Knicks, right? I believe the Knicks were at the Nets that day, and I was at Madison Square Garden. Kyrie didn't play, he left, right? And it was just like, in the moment, I didn't even know how to process my own emotions, right? Because I had to put myself in the background, because it's like, okay, as crazy as it is, I'm a journalist in this scenario. I need to be writing. I need to be talking to people. So I didn't even get to process my own emotions until after that. And when I had a chance to sit on it, it was like, yo, man, Kobe meant a lot more to me than maybe I gave him credit for. You know, he was one of the people that made me really want to pursue a career in basketball. Just the love for the game he had and his will to win. And we definitely lost a legend that day.
Especially his daughter too, 13-year-old daughter, was devastating.
It was so sad.
Yeah, but so the last thing here, would you like to say anything to the frontline people that's helping us out with this tough situation?
Absolutely. I've got a few of my friends, a good amount of my friends that are considered essential employees, essential workers that are working in medical situations. I don't know exactly. Some of them are nurses. Some of them are just like helping out. Some of them are chefs. Some of them are doing their thing, you know, and just we love y'all for doing basically what everyone else is either too scared or incapable of doing themselves, right? And that's taking care of people who can't take care of themselves. That's taking care of people who probably know that this is their last day, right? Because as from what we've seen, if you start really exhibiting some of these coronavirus symptoms, it could be 2 days tops, and you're out of here, and it sucks. And these essential workers have really been putting themselves in harm's way. Literally, they don't have to do this, and you know, obviously they're getting more money to be working, but everyone's getting more money now, right? So it's just like, for them to be really putting themselves at risk, or for you guys, if there's any of you watching, to really be putting yourselves at risk for little old us, it's admirable, and we appreciate you 100%.
Well said. So I just want to thank you for coming on today for the podcast, and you keep doing a great job with Brooklyn Nets, and as a senior NBA writer, go follow the great Kristian Winfield on Twitter, Instagram. He does a great job as always, and thank you for talking Brooklyn Nets with me.
Appreciate you, man. I wish I had a barber that could give me a haircut. So
hey, look at me. I need a haircut too.
Bro, it's getting ugly right now, man. It's getting real ugly. Hopefully next time we do this, the barbershop will be back open and I'll have access.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll talk again soon. So
100%, man. Anytime.
Yeah. All right.
My guy. Take it easy, bro.
See ya.